The story opens with the protagonist looking back on his life, summing it up as small and forgettable, like a weed. He's lying on the ground, bleeding out in front of an apartment building, barely able to move. As he reaches toward some dandelions beside him, he wonders if this is really where everything ends. While he's losing consciousness, he thinks about all the fun times he had, but at that moment, someone pulls out a gun, and the last thing he hears is the deafening sound of a gunshot. Instantly, everything goes dark, but then he suddenly wakes up as a blonde boy lying in a peaceful garden. When he sees his reflection in the water, he finally comes to terms with the situation that he has been reincarnated. He has been reborn as a boy named Left Alstria, the third son of a baron, even though he somehow still remembers his previous life in Japan. Suddenly, someone calls his name, saying they found him napping outside again. An energetic girl runs up to him, announcing that she came to play and that he should feel honored about it. Left recognizes her as Latina, the eldest daughter of a viscount, his childhood friend and his fiancée too. When Left excitedly asks what fun activity they should do that day, Latina immediately decides they should play house. Left frowns because they've played this same game a million times and suggests they try something different for once. But Latina disagrees, saying it's basically practice for their future. As soon as they sit to play, Latina slams an imaginary divorce papers on the table as part of the game and screams that their engagement is canceled because Left allegedly laid pipe somewhere else and even gave the side chick a present. Left argues that he doesn't remember, but Latina, still holding her goofy dolls, playfully calls him a liar and even pulls out a fake receipt her servant supposedly found. Left is a bit confused because her imagination is way too realistic for a young girl. But with no other choice, he decides to throw himself into the role and promises he'll stop flirting around because she's the only one he loves. This makes Latina beam with excitement, so she softens, forgetting it's just a game of pretend marriage, and promise to stay with him forever. 2 years fly by, and now Left is a well-known prodigy, the star boy of the annual blessing ceremony everyone is whispering about. Since he comes from a lineage of exceptionally talented mages, everyone expects him to receive an impressive magic blessing. Just then, Latina appears, dressed beautifully for the event, and excitedly asks if he's gotten his gift yet. But Left is stunned to see her because she looks adorable in a way that completely throws him off guard. Then, Left thinks about how his beloved Latina will eventually become part of his family as his fiancée, and how she'll probably always be beside him. With that in mind, he quietly hopes that whatever blessing he receives today will be something good, not just for himself but for her sake too. Finally, the time comes, and Left is called to the altar by the priest to offer his prayers. Left obeys, and as he kneels in front of the crystal to offer his prayer, light gathers inside the sphere, forming some kind of message or symbol that even the priest seems shocked to see. Left's parents and Latina's dad watch with full anticipation, like they're betting on some horse race, waiting to see what magical talent the boy ends up with. That's when the priest finally reads out that Left's magical blessing is a strange gift called Plant Encyclopedia. The whole room freezes because nobody knows what that means, not even the priest. Latina's parents immediately start whispering, wondering if this is some rare, unique gift that even the clergy can't classify. Some nobles in the church start buzzing that if Left's gift is truly unique, then it must be extremely valuable. They're impressed, believing that his magical power must be crazy high to unlock something this unusual, and even Latina's father treats it like a sign that Left is definitely qualified to marry his precious daughter. Meanwhile, Left just stands there sweating but smiling, thinking he's gotten some kind of special blessing, even if he has no idea what it actually does. When the priest tries to help by asking if Left understands the nature of his gift, Left confidently says yes, and in the blink of an eye, he magically materializes a strange book in his hands. Somehow he knows this is supposed to be the Plant Encyclopedia, but he's surprised that the book is ridiculously thin for something claiming to list every plant in the world. When Left flips through it, he sees images of various plants and their scientific details, confirming that it is indeed a plant encyclopedia. He then decides to use his gift, and as he stretches out his hand, a glowing leaf suddenly materializes out of nowhere. The priest panics, demanding to know what he just pulled out of the air, and Left casually explains that it's just a common weed he generated from one of the entries. Hearing this, everyone goes wild, asking if that means Left can somehow materialize ingredients for legendary elixirs like divine grass. Left checks his encyclopedia immediately to see if divine grass is listed, but he's disappointed to realize that it is. The priest, confused, decides to move down the plant hierarchy and asks if there are any high-grade herbs needed for advanced potions in the book. Left checks again and finds none listed. The priest then asks about low-grade herbs, and Left, now looking stressed, checks and tells him there are no low-grade herbs either. Disappointed, the priest sighs hard and tells Left to step back because he's clearly heard enough. At that moment, the atmosphere in the church shifts completely. People who were praising Left as a prodigy minutes ago start whispering behind their hands, calling his gift useless and pitiful. As if that isn't bad enough, Latina's father decides on the spot that the engagement is over, and drags then Latina away before she can even process what's happening. Meanwhile, Left just stands there frozen as everyone treats him like a failure who wasted their expectations, though his parents try to comfort him. From that day onward, the townspeople start seeing Left as someone to pity and starts calling him the useless weed boy. Days pass, and Left begins to get the hang of his weed creation magic. Now he can pluck a plant from his home garden and immediately materialize the exact same plant out of thin air. Left is so proud of himself that he announces it like he just completed a science fair project to the head maid, Kyra. He also tells her he needs more paper to dry and preserve the plants he's been gathering. When Kyra notices another strange leaf on Left's desk, she asks if he found another encyclopedia plant, and Left excitedly confirms it. Kyra then compliments him for gathering a lot of strange plants in such a short time, to which Left admits he was able to do it because he had more free time since Latina stopped visiting. Kyra, noticing how much Latina's absence hurts him, tries to encourage him by saying Latina is probably just busy, but Left brushes it off like a flimsy excuse. But suddenly, Left spots a fancy carriage pulling up outside his mansion gate and immediately recognizes it as Latina's. Before he can even process the surprise, someone grabs his hand, and he turns around to see Latina herself, who shushes him and pulls him into his room like she's hiding from someone. Left is completely confused about why she's acting like they're staging a jailbreak, but Latina explains she actually came to visit him without her parents' knowledge. She tells him the only reason she was able to come was because her butler was thoughtful enough to let her visit using the carriage. Latina also sadly informs Left that things aren't looking good at the moment, because her father is currently in talks with Left's parents about officially breaking off the engagement and forbidding her from contacting him ever again. Latina tries to put on a brave face, but she's hurting. She tells Left that her father believes in strict meritocracy and won't ever change his mind, especially after seeing a potential son-in-law receive what everyone thinks is a useless blessing. Even so, Latina admits through tears that she still wanted to see Left one more time before things get more complicated. After hearing everything, Left tries to pretend things are normal by asking what fun activity they should do that day. He even suggests they play house as usual, but Latina, with teary eyes, quietly says she wants them to do whatever he likes today. So Left happily suggests they go plant hunting, and Latina instantly agrees. The two of them then rush outside to search for new plants using Left's encyclopedia as a guide. Meanwhile, Left's parents watch them from a window, and his father comments that Left might grow up to be a plant researcher at this rate. Left's mother then quietly thanks Latina's butler for giving the young lovers a little more time together, since they've always treated Latina like one of their own. Outside in the garden, Latina tells Left she wants to see a beautiful white grass she found inside his encyclopedia. But Left lectures her that this particular plant, called snow cotton grass, doesn't grow anywhere around here because it only grows in cold regions. As he speaks, Latina listens quietly, trying to understand, clearly impressed by how naturally Left handles this weird gift that everyone else dismissed. At the same time, though, she can't stop thinking about how her father only values gifts related to strength or direct power, which makes her worry that no matter how special Left's ability actually is, it still won't matter to him. She gets lost in her thoughts, imagining how smart and adorable Left is, and then panics because she suddenly realizes other girls will definitely start simping for him soon. Left snaps her out of it when he calls her name and magically hands her the snow cotton grass she wanted to see, even though the temperature is completely wrong for it. Latina is surprised and assumes he found it somewhere, but Left calmly explains he materialized it from the encyclopedia. This makes Latina emotional. She tells him the plant is beautiful and then thanks him in a soft, sincere way. But the moment is cut short when Latina's butler shows up and says it's time to return to the carriage. Latina then apologizes to Left, saying she has to leave. But as she walks off, Left panics and tries to stop her, calling her name and begging her to play with him again. Latina freezes for a second. Then she smiles with a mix of sadness and hope before promising she'll definitely come again. She climbs into the carriage looking heartbroken, and her butler, Sebastian, reassures her on the way back that it was no trouble helping her sneak out like this. But Latina sinks deeper into worry, thinking that if things stay the way they are, she'll never be allowed to see Left freely again. When she asks Sebastian what he thinks she should do, he tells her that the first thing she needs is independence from her father's control, and after that, enough money and influence to stand on her own. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Left is alone in his room, heartbroken, staring at the doll toys he and Latina used to play with, and can't believe he might not see her anymore. Just then, his mother finds him sitting there in the dark and gently asks what's wrong. Left turns toward her looking emotionally exhausted. He tries to hold himself together, but the moment both of his parents come closer, he breaks down crying. They hug him and tell him magic blessings don't matter, and that he'll always be their precious son, no matter what anyone says. While being comforted by his parents, Left decides at that moment to at least become someone they can proudly call their son. About a month after the whole blessing ceremony fiasco, Left basically turns into some crackhead botanist. He's drying plants, pressing them, and organizing everything like some brat who just discovered homework can be fun. He's already found almost every plant listed in his plant encyclopedia just by wandering around his own garden, with the only exceptions being plants that can't grow in his region, like the snow cotton grass he gave Latina. But then a sudden idea pops into Left's head. He immediately rushes to meet Kyra and tells her he needs her to get something for him. Left reasons that if his encyclopedia has fewer pages than the normal encyclopedias sold in shops, then maybe he can add new plants to it himself. He remembers that during the blessing ceremony, the priest once asked him if his encyclopedia contained high-grade medicinal herbs used to make elixirs. With this in mind, when Kyra returns with a basket of low-grade medicinal herbs, Left immediately starts testing his theory. He stares at the herbs for a while, waiting for something magical to happen, but the plants just sit there like stubborn little leaves refusing to cooperate. So he tries touching them while holding the encyclopedia, and suddenly the herb gets sucked away in a flash of light like it just got Thanos snapped. When Left then flips open his encyclopedia, he's shocked to see a brand new page added with a perfect drawing of the herb he just touched. He gets so excited he nearly explodes on the spot, yelling about how the book can actually register new plants. But right as he feels the thrill of discovering something huge, he also feels his magic draining out of his body like someone pulled his life support plug. Even then, Left is still stunned that his theory worked, so he quickly runs off to show his parents what he's figured out. Days later, Left goes downtown to get new leaves to add to his encyclopedia, but everyone starts gossiping about him and his useless skill. One guy in particular takes Left's situation a little too personally and starts watching him with irritation written all over his face. As Left walks past two nosy Karens, they whisper among themselves, calling him the weed boy, and wondering if his family has abandoned him since he's walking alone without the usual escort noble brats get. But Left doesn't give a frog behind about their petty gossip and keeps walking with a bright little smile on his face. Days ago, Left has showed his parents the low-grade medicinal herbs he can now materialize out of thin air. They were shocked beyond belief. But Left shocked them even more when he showed them a whole bag stuffed with low-grade medicinal herbs he's been able to produce over time. His mom and dad couldn't believe their eyes. But Left explains that after researching, he figured out he only needs a magic power of 2 to materialize a low-grade medicinal herb. And since his magic power is 124, he can materialize quite a number. Left's dad goes quiet for a moment, deep in thought. Then suddenly he gets overly excited and tries to rush out so he can announce Left's abilities to the priest and Latina's family, hoping this could restore the broken engagement. But Left immediately calls him back, saying there's no need. His dad tries to protest, explaining that if they announce Left's newfound ability, then his evaluation will be overturned. But Left strongly refuses. He explains to his eager dad how dangerous it could be if bad people discover what he can really do and how they might try to misuse his ability. Hearing this makes his dad hesitate, because even though he wants the world to recognize Left, he's also terrified of what would happen if Left became a target. But Left assures him he doesn't care about people's validation and that they can keep calling him Weed Boy or Dope Boy for all he cares. He doubles down, saying all he wants is to keep his ability a secret within their family. When his mother asks if he's really okay parting ways with Latina as his fiancée, Left responds confidently, saying they've already overcome many marital crises together, so this is just a piece of cake. His parents are shocked hearing this and starts wondering if Left has started inhaling the weed he's been gathering. But Left quickly clarifies that he means all the imaginary marital problems they've sorted out while playing dolls. Left then starts rambling about how he and Latina have dealt with cheating affairs, sudden conspiracies, and other things that might occur in marriage, shocking his mother, who cannot believe these rugrats are playing such advanced games. Left believes the separation they're currently facing is just another marital crisis he and Latina will surely overcome together. At the same time, Latina is in her room with the exact same belief as Left. She tells herself that all she needs is power, and she's determined to rank first in the academy entrance exam so she can become strong enough to reunite with him. Meanwhile, Left's dad sees the determination in his son and realizes the boy has a point. So he agrees to keep Left's ability a secret within the family, and Left, thrilled, thanks him. His father then asks whether he'll need various plants to continue researching the encyclopedia, and Left says a big, excited yes, ready to push his power even further. But when his dad offers to help him gather as many plants as possible, Left rejects the offer on the spot, saying it isn't necessary. Instead, he asks for permission to go into town alone to get the plants himself. His father reluctantly agrees, but makes sure that for the first couple of days, Left always travels with servants. After confirming the area is safe, Left is then allowed to wander alone for 3 hours a day. His dad even gives him 6 silver coins as pocket money, and considering 1 coin gets you 2 nights at a cheap inn, that's a serious allowance. Left decides he'll use most of it for adventurer registration and plans to cover plant expenses by selling the low-grade medicinal herbs he materializes. So he excitedly heads straight to the Adventurers Guild, but as soon as he swings the door open, he's met with immediate harassment. A group of ugly-looking mofos see him enter the guild and immediately decide to pick on him. The bald one with an egg-shaped head tells him the Adventurers Guild is no place for a brat, while the one with the stupid mohawk tells Left to go home and suck his mama's melons. The guy with the ridiculous afro says Left can also suck his papa's melons, and Left just stands there helpless while these grown men act like low-budget villains. Left tries ignoring their stupidity, but they keep pressing him. So he shouts that he came to register as an adventurer, and he isn't leaving until that's done. The grown men bullies are shocked hearing this and immediately try to talk him out of it, advising him to give up his adventurer ambitions and just go home to watch Cockamelon instead. But Left keeps insisting he won't leave, until finally the bully's boss arrives, demanding to know what the commotion is about. When the thugs nervously explain, the bulky guy with the scarred face named Abuchi takes one good look at Left and instantly recognizes him as the Weed Boy, the brat whose gift supposedly produces nothing but useless weeds. So he tells Left the adventurer world is too dangerous and complicated for someone like him, so he should scram while he still has all his limbs. But when Left looks him dead in the eye and refuses, the big guy snaps that a little brat dares talk back to him. He lunges forward, reaching for Left like he's about to drag him out. But right then, someone grabs his wrist and asks if cornering a child is fun. Turns out it's some red-haired guy named Helio, who grips Abuchi's wrist so hard the bones nearly shatter. Abuchi feels the intensity of the pain and immediately yanks his wrist away before it turns into breadcrumbs. A girl named Myra, who came with Helio, then scolds Abuchi and his group of misfits for picking on newcomers. When Helio joins in, demanding to know why full-grown men are misbehaving like this, Abuchi and his freak show decide to retreat in fear. Once they're gone, left, still processing everything, thanks Helio for helping him. But Helio playfully pats his head and tells him he did great too, for courageously standing up to the big guys. While staring at Helio, Left notices his red hair and suddenly realizes something wild. He remembers hearing rumors about a rising adventurer known as red-haired Helio, someone who led a party that reached B rank at record speed. And now he's realizing the guy who saved him is literally that hero. To begin the registration, Mia takes Left's 5 silver coins and then asks him to put his tiny hand on the big magical device. When Left gently places his hand on it, the machine lights and spits out a shiny adventurer card. Mia then hands Left his personal copy and warns him not to lose it, before keeping a spare for the guild. After the registration, Mia asks Left how much he knows about adventurers, and Left admits all he knows is basically hearsay, like how adventurers go on monster subjugations and cave explorations. Since he's basically clueless, Mia decides to give him the standard newbie tour. She explains the bulletin board, how quests have ranks, deadlines, penalties, and how he'll be starting at the absolute bottom with F rank. She also tells him he can form parties with multiple people to take on requests. Then she warns him that if he misses a deadline, the request is failed and he'll receive a penalty. When Mia then asks if there's anything else he'd like to know, Left pulls out his leather backpack and says he wants to sell some low-grade medicinal herbs. He casually pours out 50 bundles, and Mia freezes at the sight of the massive pile. Then she regains her composure, apologizes for freaking out, and asks Left to hold on while she counts the herbs and calculates their value. While she counts everything, Left thinks about how nobody questions any of this, not even Helio, which probably says a lot about how chaotic the guild is. Following that, Left asks Helio if he plans on tagging along, and Helio confirms he is, explaining that he's on his day off so he practically has nothing important to do. Helio also adds that he's in charge of showing newbies around, and Left immediately interprets this as the purest form of kindness known to humanity. A few minutes later, Mia returns and apologizes for keeping them waiting. She announces that the 55 bundles of low-grade herbs total 1 gold coin and 1 silver coin. But on the tray, Left can clearly see 3 gold coins, which leaves him speechless and deeply confused about the mathematics. So when he casually points out there are 3 gold coins, Mia explains that they added a little extra because a guild member troubled him earlier. Left processes that explanation and basically screams in his mind because a little extra is actually more than double. But since Mia is dumb enough to let it slide, Left doesn't press the issue. So he takes the money, smiling like he just won a jackpot, and is already planning to buy more plants with it. But in the corner, some shady dudes overhear the 3 gold coins, comment, and start plotting. Helio notices that Left is about to get jumped by these clowns, so when Left leaves the guild, Helio immediately follows him out. On the way, Helio asks Left to look around, and the second he does, he instantly realizes some dudes are eyeing his backpack because of the 3 gold coins inside. So he begs Helio to stay with him for a while, and Helio agrees, but warns him to hold his bag tightly. This pisses off the losers who originally planned to rob him. They start calling Left a brat loud enough for him to hear, while others are clearly jealous that the weed boy is walking side by side with a famous red-haired adventurer, and Left can literally feel the jealousy radiating off them like heat from a stove. Helio gets curious about the whole weed boy nickname and asks Left what it even means. Left hesitates because he doesn't want to reveal his encyclopedia ability yet, so he explains that the nickname is basically an insult born from disappointment at his modest skill during the blessing ceremony. But Helio, noticing how unbothered Left is by all the trash talk, asks if he's figured out a way to use his skill differently. Left is shocked at how fast Helio catches on, but he simply hints that he has found a proper way to use his ability. His vague answer makes Helio laugh, but he doesn't pry any further. Changing the subject, Left tells Helio he would like to stop by a shop that sells medicinal herbs and plants. Hearing this, Helio brightens up immediately and suggests they go to a general store he personally recommends. Soon after, they arrive at the medicinal store, and as they walk in, the store owner immediately notices Left's high-quality leather backpack and boots and assumes he must be some rich noble brat with cash to burn. So she wastes no time telling him to look around and pick whatever he likes. As Left scans the shop, his eyes go wide because the shop is packed with all sorts of rare herbs, which is basically heaven for a plant-obsessed nerd like him. He excitedly wanders around the shop like a brat in Disneyland, unable to believe how many options he suddenly has. But then reality slaps him in the face harder than Chris Rock when he realizes the high-grade medicinal herbs he wants so badly cost an arm and a leg. Buying them would mean blowing all his money. So Left makes a smart choice and picks 5 plants and 2 antidote potions instead, which almost drains his entire budget. The shopkeeper, curious, asks what in the world he plans to do with all those ingredients. Left panics for a moment, then lies as calmly as he can, saying his mother sent him on an errand. The old lady clearly isn't fooled. She just chuckles, happy to have made a sale, and tells him to come back anytime he needs anything. Looking at the items he just bought, Left is beyond excited, but he quietly vows never to misuse his plant encyclopedia ability, because if he started popping items into existence whenever he wanted, it wouldn't just ruin the shop's business, it could wreck the entire local economy. Once they leave the shop, Helio tells Left he'll be taking him home. Left is genuinely grateful and thanks him, but Helio brushes it off, happy to help on his day off. Then Helio casually mentions that when he gets back to his inn, he has a meeting with the other members of his party and invites Left to come too. Left is stunned and worries he might be intruding on the Fire Dragon Strikes meeting. But Helio assures him it's fine since it's not a formal gathering and Left's presence would actually be helpful. Later that day, Helio and Left arrive at the inn for the meeting, and the other members of Fire Dragon Strike are already there except for a girl named Rhea, who's always late because she is always sleeping. When one of the guys asks Helio who the boy is, Left doesn't even wait to be introduced and immediately introduces himself. He explains he's just tagging along because Helio rescued him earlier, and he bows so respectfully that the party members are shocked at how well-mannered he is. One short Barbie gets rizzed up by his polite attitude, so she pats his head and introduces herself as Mayu, the healer of the party. Left returns the courtesy, and as they shake hands, one big guy suddenly grabs Left's head like a ball and excitedly introduces himself as Gladius, the party's shield. Left then tries to politely smile even though his head is getting crushed like a watermelon. After everyone introduces themselves, Helio asks Mayu to go wake Rhea, the last member of the party, for her own introduction, and she immediately obeys. But before Mayu can take a single step, Rhea suddenly storms out of her room, and as Left sees her, he immediately assumes she must be an angel because of the massive milk containers she's carrying. But without warning, Rhea dives on top of Left like a rugby player and starts suffocating him with her juggernauts. She presses her entire body into him like he's some adorable mascot until Left actually blacks out. When Left finally regains consciousness, he finds himself wrapped in Rhea's warm, comfortable balloons like a plush toy. With Rhea acting all touchy around the little guy, Mayu gets jealous and offended. She immediately demands that Rhea let him go, but Rhea refuses, explaining that Left is her ideal guy. But before things get out of hand, Helio slams the table to restore order and demands they start the meeting. He explains that the request brought before them comes directly from the country and that the job duration is 1 week. When he mentions the reward is 200 gold coins, Left's eyes nearly pop out of his skull, because that's basically 10 times the annual salary of a national soldier. Helio further explains that the mission involves subjugating a wyvern near the mines, a beast dangerous enough to wipe out a town if left alone. When it's time for the party discussion, Rhea asks about the wyvern's attributes, while Mayu wants to know how many wyverns there are and whether they really need a full week to complete the mission. Meanwhile, Left listens in absolute awe, realizing these people aren't nervous at all, even while discussing a monster on that scale. Helio notices his reaction and asks how he's feeling. Left admits he's overwhelmed by how massive everything sounds, but also says he learned a lot just by listening. Helio nods and explains that this is how high-level adventurers break down requests step by step, adding that if Left has questions, he should ask freely. Left is about to speak when the clock on the wall suddenly chimes, drawing everyone's attention, and they realize it's already pretty late. Left remembers his curfew and says he needs to be back by 1, which prompts them to wrap things up for the day. As they prepare to leave, Rhea suddenly pulls Left in close again, squeezing him gently and clearly not wanting to let go. Helio immediately orders her to stop being desperate and release the boy. Rhea hesitates, and Left, realizing she's determined to smear his head into part of her melons, gathers his courage and asks if he can come visit again. Rhea instantly lights up and starts bouncing with excitement, telling him he can come anytime. Helio and Mayu join in as well, encouraging Left to come back soon and assuring him he's always welcome with them. Left is touched by how warmly the entire Fire Dragon Strike team treats him and thanks them sincerely. When Left returns home later that day, he's greeted by Kyra, who welcomes him back and reminds him of all the neglected duties he still has as the son of a noble. So Left spends the rest of the day buried in general education, monster studies, reading and writing in the kingdom's official language, and even swordsmanship training. That evening at dinner, his parents ask how his day went, and Left doesn't hold anything back. He tells them about being harassed, about Helio stepping in to help him, and about meeting the members of Fire Dragon Strike. His parents immediately look concerned, clearly worried about the danger he faced, but they're also relieved that he made it home safely. Later that night, after dinner, Left returns to his room to properly register the plants he bought earlier, a part of his daily routine he enjoys the most. As he flips through the encyclopedia, he notices the book is getting thicker and fuller, which excites him. With every new page, he feels like his options are expanding and that his ability is steadily evolving. To start, Left picks up one of the special plants he purchased. It's called the crystal flower, priced at 1 gold coin and 5 silver coins. He notes how beautiful it is and remembers it's a popular plant among adventurers for romantic confessions. Once he finishes registering all the plants, Left decides to test materialization to see how much magic each one consumes. At first, everything goes as expected. Low-grade medicinal herbs consume a small, predictable amount of magic. Poisonous plants take a bit more, but still fall within the expected range. Then Left moves on to moonlight grass. This plant is one of the key ingredients for making intermediate potions and higher-grade recovery medicine. After materializing it, Left realizes it consumes about 10 magic power, which is exactly what he predicted. Next, Left tries materializing intermediate medicinal herbs. This time, his magic drains much faster, consuming about 50 magic power and almost causing him to collapse on the spot. For the final and most expensive plant he bought that day, the crystal flower, Left attempts to materialize it, but freezes when he realizes his remaining magic isn't enough to handle it. This worries him for a moment, but he's relieved when the plant registers successfully in the encyclopedia. Deciding it's smarter to wait and let his magic recover before trying again, Left shifts his focus to safer items like antidote potions. He starts by comparing poisonous plants, placing the one he materialized next to the one he bought from the shop. He even tastes a tiny bit to test the difference and immediately regrets it as the bitterness hits him raw. But Left quickly downs an antidote potion before he accidentally reaches nirvana before he even starts making any money. After testing both poisonous plants, Left realizes something important. The effects are exactly the same, no stronger and no weaker, which is actually a huge relief. If the materialized version had been better or worse, it would have drawn attention, and that's the last thing he wants right now. This means Left can safely use and even sell materialized plants without anyone suspecting anything strange. After experimenting for hours, Left finally collapses onto his bed, exhausted but satisfied. He admits to himself that drinking poisonous plants is way worse than he imagined, but the results make it worth it. But then he notices a problem. His magic power is clearly a bottleneck, and no matter how many rare plants he owns, there will be times when he simply won't be able to use them. As he stares up at the ceiling, Left realizes he has to level up, since that's the only way his magic power will grow stronger. However, he also remembers that his ability isn't combat-oriented at all. and relying on the plant encyclopedia alone won't save him in a real fight. Even so, Helio's words about stopping by occasionally come back to him, and it feels like a small push forward, even if it's only half a step. 10 days later, outside the castle gates where goblins frequently appear, Left accompanies Rhea and Mayu on a goblin annihilation mission. They soon spot 3 low-level goblins, and when the girls ask Left if he's scared, the little man immediately admits that he is, at least a bit. Rhea then suggests she'll single-handedly take down 2 of the goblins and leave the last one for Left to handle. Left then thanks them, steadies himself, and prepares to face his very first monster. After Rhea takes down the 2 goblins, they move toward the last one, and Left is shocked seeing a goblin up close for the first time. He notices its disgusting, unmanicured feet, its hideous face, and its sharp fangs. Before Left can even fully process the monster in front of him, Rhea nudges him forward toward the goblin. Left hesitates and admits to himself that seeing the goblin this close is honestly terrifying. But instead of chickening out, he forces himself to focus and makes up his mind. He grips his dagger and reminds himself that if he wants to increase his magic power, then defeating monsters is something he has no choice but to do. His gift still isn't suited for combat, and he knows that better than anyone. All he really has right now is his own body and the results of his daily training. So when the goblin lunges with simple, repetitive swings, Left realizes the attacks are easy to read, even if they're dangerous. Using the same movement patterns he practiced over and over, Left dodges and finally manages to slash the goblin's back. The goblin roars in pain and fury, but Left notices something important. His strength might be lacking, but his timing and awareness are sharp. When the goblin charges again, Left predicts the attack, moves first, and stabs its ugly face, managing to blind it completely. With the monster stumbling around in panic, Left sees his opening and commits. Swinging with everything he has left, he succeeds in slashing the goblin's head. The goblin collapses onto the grass, motionless, and the fight finally ends. Suddenly, the goblin's corpse vanishes, leaving behind a small dark crystal which Left picks up. He realizes it's a magic stone, the monster's core, used for crafting and enhancing equipment. As the dust settles, both Rhea and Mayu rush over, clearly worried, asking if he's hurt. Left reassures them that he's fine, but the girls aren't buying it. They surround him and start checking him from head to toe for any signs of injury. The strange attention makes Left laugh a little, amused by how overprotective they are. When Mayu notices a small injury on his hand, she immediately heals it with magic. Left feels relieved and gratefully thanks her. With everything settled, Rhea cheerfully suggests they move on to find the next goblin, and Left agrees with a smile. Days later, Left pays a visit to Helio and the team, but the moment he knocks on the door, he senses something is off. Suddenly, the door swings open, and the first thing Left experiences is 2 massive, soft jugs pressing into his face. From how absurdly cushy they feel, Left instantly realizes they can belong to no one other than Rhea. Sure enough, when he looks up, he sees Rhea smiling down at him, telling him she missed him. Left admits that he missed her too, and Rhea's face instantly brightens, her eyes widening in surprise. Overjoyed, she pulls him into another hug, nearly suffocating him in her cannons. But just then, Helio appears and tells Left he has something important to discuss with him. Before they start the important discussion, Helio asks Left if they should wait for the rest of the team to arrive. Left, now firmly settled in his natural habitat under Rhea's bouncy jigglies, agrees that they should wait. But then he starts overthinking things. He wonders if it was rude to show up without notice, knowing that the Fire Dragon's strike might have already planned a meeting that day. So he quickly apologizes to Helio for coming too early. But Helio just smiles casually and tells him it's totally fine, explaining that Mayu and Gladius only stepped out for a bit. Hearing that, Left relaxes and continues enjoying the warmth of Rhea's dumplings. Just then someone knocks, and a flat, calm voice greets them from the doorway. It's Mayu, who casually steps in, and the moment she sees Left, she asks if he came to play with them. Left politely greets her, then clarifies that he didn't come to play, but to discuss something important with the entire team. Mayu tells him to go ahead, but Helio stops her, saying they won't start any discussion until Gladius arrives, and Mayu agrees without argument. Meanwhile, a lot is going on in Left's head. The more time he spends with fire dragons strike, the more curious he becomes about how they really operate and the kind of bonds they share. Rhea, in particular, feels the most mysterious to him because of the zero-distance affection she constantly shows and the protective way she treats him. Even though she's extremely close, Left doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. Instead, he can tell she's being careful with him and genuinely cherishing him, which strangely feels familiar. The warmth he feels whenever he's around Rhea reminds him of how he feels toward Latina. While Left is lost in thought, Rhea brings his attention back, asking what's wrong. But Left quickly shakes his head and says it's nothing, all while quietly enjoying the warm comfort of her bazangas. A few minutes later, someone finally arrives from outside. Gladius shows up, apologizing for being late in his usual loud, honest way. Helio welcomes him back and then announces that now everyone is present, it's time to hear what Left has to say. Left thanks Helio for the opportunity, but when he tries to speak, panic creeps in. He wonders how the team will react to a boy like him wanting to level up so early. He's also conflicted about whether it's okay to reveal his ability to them, and if he should explain everything about his botany gift. But as he looks around the room, Left realizes something important. His desire to understand the fire dragons strike better and to walk forward alongside them is stronger than his fear. That's when he finally makes up his mind. He admits that he admires them, enjoys talking with them, and feels genuinely drawn in by their kindness, even though they've only just met. With that clarity, Left decides there's no point hesitating anymore. So before the real discussion even begins, he magically summons his plant encyclopedia and says he would like to explain his ability first. When he finishes explaining his gift, Rhea is clearly impressed, finding both his ability and his ambition amazing. Helio, on the other hand, responds more calmly, adding that it's a rare and impressive power, especially for someone so young with limited magic reserves. Mayu stays silent for a moment, while Gladius quietly agrees that Left's ability is an amazing one. When Helio asks if all the medicinal herbs the guild bought weeks ago were duplicates, Left calmly admits that they were. Helio then asks about the plants Left bought from the general store some time back. Left then explains that at the time, he wanted plants that didn't already exist in his encyclopedia, so he bought them, studied them, and created entirely new pages himself. Hearing this, Helio realizes something unsettling. He points out that if Left keeps leveling up, he could eventually mass-produce plants whenever he wants, which would absolutely wreck normal plant shops if handled poorly. Left panics for a moment, then immediately promises he would never use his gift in a way that causes harm. Just then, Mayu steps in, calmly raising her hand to speak. She points out that up until now, Left has still relied on regular stores to obtain new plants, which shows restraint rather than recklessness. Because of that, she doesn't see Left's gift as a threat. Helio agrees, saying Left doesn't seem like the type to abuse his power. Still, Mayu warns that they'll need to be careful going forward so things don't spiral out of control. Even so, Mayu reassures Left that, as his big sister, she'll help him in any way she can. Left, completely overwhelmed but grateful, thanks her with a big smile and finally brings up the real reason he wanted this meeting in the first place. He explains that he wants to level up, but more importantly, he wants advice on hunting grounds that would actually be safe and manageable for him. Helio laughs a little and says that asking for guidance instead of rushing in blindly is a roundabout but smart way of doing things. He then assures Left that the members of Fire Dragon Strike could even escort him while he levels up, just to make sure nothing goes wrong. However, before any of that happens, Helio explains that they'll need to speak with Left's parents directly, so everyone can be on the same page moving forward. So the following week, Helio and Gladius visit Left's home and are immediately taken aback by how massive the place is. In his head, Helio realizes that Left isn't just polite and talented, but also the son of a noble. Sensing how tense the two adventurers are, Left's dad welcomes them warmly and suggests that everyone relax and speak as equals. But when Helio and Gladius try to talk, they trip over their words like complete imbeciles and struggle to form a coherent sentence. The awkward scene makes Left's mom laugh, and she gently reassures them that it's fine, encouraging them to relax. Helio visibly loosens up and admits that he's always been terrible with formal etiquette and was worried he'd mess things up. With Helio and Gladius now finally at ease, Left's dad then asks what business brought them to his home. Helio then drops the polite tone and makes it clear he didn't come to waste time, especially when nobles are involved. He calmly explains that the real reason he's here is simple business. He wants Fire Dragon Strike to officially act as Left's bodyguards. Left's parents are shocked. His father argues that while he understands Left wants to raise his magic limit, rushing his growth like this feels dangerous, especially since his gift isn't even combat-focused. Meanwhile, outside town, Left is calmly fighting goblins. He takes one down with surprising composure and earns another magic stone. Back at the discussion, Helio explains plainly that whenever Left leaves town, someone from Fire Dragon Strike will accompany him to ensure he never faces real danger alone. He adds that if the plan is to enroll Left in the academy, then early training is simply the logical step, especially since unique gifts tend to develop slower than normal ones. That's when Left's mother, Selvia, finally voices the question she's been holding back. She asks why everyone in Fire Dragon Strike is being so unusually kind to Left. Helio pauses at the question, recalling how Rhea dramatically called Left an angel and how Mayu always referred to him as her little brother. After a brief moment of thought, Helio begins listing the reasons he personally cares about Left, one by one. He says he respects Left's attitude toward the plant encyclopedia, pointing out how rare it is for someone his age to seriously think about the future of their gift. On top of that, both Mayu and Rhea have clearly taken a liking to the little guy, which is rare in itself. A quieter moment then follows when Helio admits he sympathizes with Left because he once stood in a similar position. That confession draws everyone's attention. After a short pause, Helio reveals that just like Left, he is also a holder of a unique gift. He explains that unique gifts are extremely powerful, but depending on the type, some of them bloom very late. Sometimes they even seem useless right after awakening because they require time and effort to develop. Back then, Helio struggled to control his own gift, often collapsing in front of others. Because of that, he was ridiculed and labeled useless by the villagers. Helio reveals that Gladius was the one who saved him during that period. Gladius casually adds that Helio used to be a crybaby back then, earning him an immediate smack to the face for oversharing. Helio continues, explaining that he once saw Left enter the guild alone after hearing some jerks bad-mouthing the plant encyclopedia around town. In that moment, he saw his younger self reflected in the boy, especially when Left stood up to grown bullies with quiet dignity. Helio admits that was when he decided he wanted to see Left's future through. After hearing everything, Left's parents finally understand that Helio's sudden fondness for their son has nothing to do with white parties and baby oils. So Left's dad finally agrees to properly compensate the Fire Dragon Strike team for the bodyguard service and asks Helio to continue looking after his son with care. Helio responds with visible relief, thanking them and expressing genuine excitement about working together. They then shake hands, sealing the agreement. Meanwhile, Left is still out in the field, taking down goblins while Rhea and Mayu watch over him. Suddenly, Left feels his magic power surge. When he checks his status, he sees that he's leveled up to level 2, and this realization fills him with so much excitement. Rhea and Mayu, proud of Left, immediately rush over to congratulate him, although Rhea goes a little overboard by stuffing his head into her milky castles. But then Left notices something strange. For the first time, his plant encyclopedia ability actually shows a level, which catches everyone's attention because until now, it never had any numerical notation at all. But Mayu tells him not to worry too much. She explains that the same thing happened with Rhea's magic, and Rhea confirms it, adding that her ability, Void, also had no notation at first. Moving on, Mayu asks Left to check if he's gained any new abilities. Left does as told, and when he opens his status window, he realizes he can now store materialized plants directly inside his gift, instead of physically carrying them around like some jobless local farmer. Left is over the moon about this and wishes he'd had it earlier, back when he had to haul 55 bundles of low-grade medicinal herbs to the guild like a walking grocery store. When Rhea curiously asks if he still needs to touch the plants to store them, Left explains that, Just like his materialization skill, he needs to form a contract with his right hand first. Mayu then suggests checking his overall stat growth, and that's when things get interesting. As Left opens his status window again, he's shocked to see his magic power has jumped far higher than expected, enough that even Rhea reacts with genuine surprise. Still, despite all this progress, Left feels conflicted. He admits that even with the growth, he's still not suited for close combat and needs to carefully think about what kind of fighting style actually fits his gift. The girls end up spending the entire day with him, watching him steadily improve, until he quietly reaches level 3 by the time night falls. When Left finally returns home that night, his dad tells him everything that was discussed with Helio earlier. His father believes that having Helio and his team guard Left is a brilliant idea, since protecting a noble's son will also raise the party's rank. In the end, it's a win-win for everyone. Left's mom, on the other hand, is more interested in him learning as much as possible from Helio's team, while also making sure he doesn't neglect his studies. Left eagerly agrees, promising to do everything they ask, and thanks his parents sincerely, like a good boy should. After dinner that night, reality settles in. Left goes to his room, sits on his bed like a monk and starts thinking. He worries about his limits. He knows he can handle a single goblin without much danger, but he also knows that with proper sword skills, he could probably take on multiple enemies at once. The gap between combat-oriented gifts and his own plant encyclopedia becomes painfully obvious. In the kingdom, noble brats usually train at academies to become knights, mages, or rulers. Commoners, on the other hand, either fight their way up through brutal competition or die young trying. No matter the path, though, fighting monsters is unavoidable if you want to grow stronger. So as Left flips through his encyclopedia again, frustration builds when he realizes that none of the plants listed so far can be used as actual weapons. That's when his dad enters the room. After listening to Left's worries, he advises him to start with knowledge first. To help with that, his father hands him an old book filled with detailed information about plants and geography across the kingdom. So while studying the book late into the night, Left stumbles upon something that could change his combat game completely. He finds out about some strange grass known as the explosion grass. So very early the next day, Left hurries to tell Helio and the rest of the team about this explosion grass. Placing his hand on his chin, Helio pauses and thinks about this so-called explosion grass, and after thinking briefly, he realized that the plant could be quite useful in combat. When Left asks if anyone knows where explosion grass grows naturally, Helio replies that Mayu is the Mona of the team, the one who knows the way. Mayu accepts that she is the Mona of the team, and then says she will go get her map. When Mayu lays the map on the table, everyone learns that explosion grass grows at the entrance of the monster forest, just south of the Goblin Plains. Left panics the moment he hears this, but Helio and Rhea both think he should be fine going there, even alone. Left, however, knows very well that he can't handle something like that by himself, but Helio explains that there isn't much choice, since everyone except Mayu has important business of their own to take care of. Before Left can even react, Mayu steps forward and declares that she'll take full responsibility and act as his big sister for the day. The moment she says that, Rhea gets jealous and immediately starts squeezing Left's head like an orange with her chest explosives. She cries that she wants to go too, but Mayu smacks her away and warns her to stop deforming Left like he's some kind of stress toy. Mayu firmly refuses to let Rhea tag along and proudly declares that for today, Left is her little brother and hers alone. Rhea does not take this well at all. She starts crying and begging to come with them, but Mayu and Left simply walk away, leaving her behind. Several hours later, Left and Mayu finally arrive at the monster forest, a terrifying place inhabited by various species of monsters. As they venture inside, Mayu suddenly remembers that when she was little, there used to be a song about this evil forest. When she casually asks Left about it, he admits he knows the song very well, since it's something parents used to sing when scolding brats. He explains that thanks to the song, everyone grew up knowing the forest was a dangerous place. Left is surprised that Mayu doesn't know about it, but she explains she was never really interested in silly things like that. Just then, they reach the dreaded entrance of the monster forest, where Mayu immediately suggests they search for a plant called Karamizuru before looking for explosion grass. This instantly excites Left, the plant freak who agrees without hesitation, asking her to lead the way. When Mayu asks if he even knows anything about Karamizuru, Left explains that he once read the plant wraps around anything it touches. He adds that it usually grows in clusters where there are many trees. Mayu is impressed by his knowledge, but decides he still needs some schooling. She explains that Karamizuru is a nocturnal plant that only blooms at night. She also reveals that it's a predatory plant, wrapping its branches around animals and slowly suffocating them to death, after which it absorbs the nutrients from their bodies. However, Mayu warns that if a Karamizuru plant fails to absorb enough nutrients from its prey, it eventually withers away. After hearing such an impressive explanation from the dwarf, Left gets even more excited and flashes a wide grin, clearly thrilled to add more knowledge about plants to his brain. Not long after, they reach a fork in the road. Mayu explains that the paths were created by adventurers, but she also warns that the narrower the path, the higher the probability of finding clusters of Karamizuru plants nearby. Left starts to panic and nearly considers abandoning the mission altogether, but Mayu gently pats him on the head and reassures him that everything will be fine as long as she's with him. With that encouragement, they step onto the narrow path. When they finally make it to the other side, they're greeted by a field filled with clusters of Karamizuru. Mayu immediately warns Left not to touch anything. When she spots a Karamizuru plant that isn't tangled around another plant, she tells him that one is safe to touch. The moment Left does, the plant vanishes and registers itself into his plant encyclopedia. With that done, Mayu tells Left their next objective is explosion grass. She then asks if he actually researched its characteristics beforehand. Left confirms that he did and explains that explosion grass bursts its internal sac when stimulated. He adds that the contents of the sac are a highly toxic poison. To clarify further, Left explains that simple things like rain, wind, or even small stones can trigger the sac, causing the poison to evaporate into the air. This gas can annihilate animals and even monsters. In severe cases, entire groups caught in it become paralyzed and unable to move, and even plant roots aren't spared from the damage caused by the poisonous mist released by explosion grass. Before venturing into the area where explosion grass grows, Mayu picks up a tiny leaf and tosses it into the air. Watching how it drifts, she confirms that they're upwind and says they're approaching from the right direction, meaning it's safe to proceed. After walking for a few more minutes, they finally come across a field of explosion grass, but the sight that greets them sends a chill down their spines. Scattered across the field is a horde of dead goblins, all wiped out by the poisonous gas released by the plants. So Left and Mayu immediately cover their noses to avoid inhaling the toxic air. Still not satisfied with just that, Mayu tells Left to stand still. She then casts a plot armor spell called Arrow Guard, which makes him resistant to status ailments. Left thanks her gratefully, but Mayu quickly warns him that the spell will only last 30 minutes, so he shouldn't get careless or wander into areas thick with poisonous mist. Left nods seriously, and as he steps into the field, he readies his plant encyclopedia, preparing to register the explosion grass as quickly as possible. Left carefully approaches the explosion grass while clutching his encyclopedia tightly. As he gets closer, he studies the plants and notices something important. Some of the poison sacs are swollen, while others look completely drained. Left reasons that any plant with a drained sac shouldn't contain poison anymore. Carefully, he reaches out and touches one of them. In the blink of an eye, it vanishes and then registers into his encyclopedia. Impressed, Mayu praises him for making the right call and congratulates him on successfully achieving their goal. She then quickly warns him that they shouldn't linger and that it's time to leave the area immediately. On their way back, Mayu asks if Left is interested in registering other plants as well. Left excitedly says yes, so she leads him to a massive philo tree. She explains that philo wood is commonly used to make practice swords and shields because it's strong, durable, and easy to handle. Left figures the wood would be useful for defense, but he worries about the tree's size, wondering if his encyclopedia can even register something that large. Deciding to try anyway, Left reaches out, and suddenly, a massive burst of light flashes, nearly blinding him. When the light fades, Both Left and Mayu are shocked to see that the enormous tree has completely vanished, having been successfully registered into the encyclopedia. They stare at the empty clearing in silence, amazed at how clean and untouched the space looks. Feeling a bit guilty, Left quietly apologizes to nature, reminding himself that he needs to use the power of living plants more carefully. They continue their journey out of the forest, and along the way, they spot a lone goblin wandering nearby. Left finds it strange to see a goblin by itself, but Mayu assumes it's just a straggler. Either way, Left doesn't dwell on it for long and decides that the unfortunate goblin will serve as the perfect test subject for his Karamizuru. Left immediately materializes the vine-like plant from his encyclopedia and grabs his sword with his right hand. The setup feels a little awkward, since he would have preferred holding the Karamizuru in his right hand and his sword in his left. Still, he reassures himself that Mayu is right there, so even if he messes up, things won't spiral out of control. So he rushes towards the goblin with the Karamizuru plant in one hand and his blade in another. When he gets close to the goblin, Left hurls the vine plant at the monster, and it instantly gets tangled by the vines. Thrown off balance, the goblin crashes to the ground, screaming as the plant restrains it completely. But Left doesn't take any chances. He raises his sword and in one clean motion cuts off the goblin's head. As the dust settles, Left notices that the Karamizuru plant remains on the ground even after the monster disappears. He quickly stores it away, realizing this prevents it from taking root and harming the surrounding ecosystem. With that done, Left starts thinking. Relying on throwing plants feels risky, especially since his three-pointer aim isn't exactly as good as Steven's. He also realizes that constantly occupying his right hand with plants puts him at a serious disadvantage when he's alone. Meanwhile, Mayu approaches calmly and praises Left, saying he handled his gift with impressive skill. But Left disagrees, arguing that he still has a long way to go with his skills before he feels confident. Suddenly, Mayu casually points out that there are two more perfect targets nearby to test explosion grass. When Left looks over, he spots two goblins walking together, completely unaware of what just happened. Mayu then volunteers to take one of them to make things easier, leaving the other for Left. In a flash, Mayu moves first, striking cleanly and effortlessly, leaving the remaining goblin frozen in shock. She then turns to Left and calmly tells him it is his turn, encouraging him to do his best. But as Left tries to materialize the explosion grass, he's stunned when he feels an overwhelming difference in his power level. However, Left still manages to materialize the explosion grass exactly in the form he wants. With the wind blowing favorably in his direction, he throws the plant straight at the incoming goblin. The moment it lands, the explosion grass detonates far harder than he expected, completely obliterating the goblin and filling the area with thick smoke. Left nearly gets exposed to the poison, but Mayu reacts instantly, shielding him with her arrow guard magic. As the smoke clears, Left realizes two things at once. The poison disperses cleanly, and the explosion grass is insanely effective, but also terrifying if misused. He picks up the goblin's magic stone and carefully stores the remaining explosion grass inside his storage. When Mayu asks if he can still reuse plants kept in storage, Left uses the Karamizuru as an example, and then explains that even if he materializes it again, it no longer has the power to wrap around anything. Since the plants become completely useless, Mayu asks why he bothers storing them at all, and Left explains that letting those plants take root could cause serious environmental damage. Satisfied with the answer, Mayu tells him to hurry up and collect the remaining goblin magic stones so they can return to the guild and exchange them for rewards. Before long, they arrive at the guild, where Myra, the receptionist, confirms the magic stones and congratulates Left on completing his first request. She then hands him his reward along with points added to his adventurer registration card. Left stares at the card, grinning like he just unlocked his first achievement, barely believing he's completed his very first subjugation. Myra then mentions that there's also a standing request for medicinal herbs, but she pauses as she remembers the low-grade herbs Left previously sold to the guild. She explains that the pharmacy that purchased them gave very positive feedback, even commenting on how the leaves were all uniform in size and completely free of dirt. As they leave the guild, Mayu advises Left that even though there's a constant demand for medicinal herbs, he should avoid large-scale deliveries for now. She explains that since plants produced by the plant encyclopedia are uniform in size, this could draw attention to his ability and cause the guild to start scrutinizing him. Left immediately agrees, realizing she's right, and reassures her that he never intended to cause any trouble in the first place. Later that day, Mayu escorts Left back home. As she leaves, Left finds himself thinking about their earlier conversation in the monster forest. She had mentioned not knowing the forest songs, saying she wasn't interested in things like that. The way she said it felt unusually curt, almost like she didn't want to talk about it at all. Left starts to wonder if Mayu never wanted to be a big sister figure in the first place, but ended up taking on that role out of necessity. Later that night, Left checks his stats and realizes his level has increased again. He also notices that his magic power has gone up, which surprises him and makes him wonder if he should let Helio know about it. As he relaxes on his bed, Left reflects on everything that happened that day and can't help but feel satisfied, even though it was hectic. His thoughts drift back to when he registered the Philo tree, and he remembers that strange sensation, almost as if he absorbed the forest's power directly into himself. The more he thinks about it, the more he wonders what would happen if he somehow tried to manifest something that massive. He quickly shuts the idea down, telling himself there's no way he could possibly materialize a tree of that size. Then his thoughts turn to Mayu. He reflects on how she always fights alone and seems to have accepted that as normal. That realization hits a nerve because he recognizes the same pattern in himself. By hiding his gift and shouldering everything alone, he's doing exactly what she does. A few days later, Left is informed that the members of Fire Dragon's strike have arrived. He's surprised since he didn't have anything scheduled with them that day. Still, he asks for hospitality to be prepared, but Kyra tells him it's just a greeting visit and that the team insists on staying at the entrance. When Left steps outside, Helio and Gladius greet him loudly, but Left is immediately thrown off by their outfits, which tell him this won't be a normal visit. When he casually asks about it, Mayu explains that they've received an emergency request and will be gone for about a week. This catches Left off guard, since even with wyvern subjugations, Fire Dragon's strike usually finishes much faster. Helio explains that monster numbers around a nearby town have suddenly dropped, which usually means something far worse is lurking nearby. Because of that, the team was specifically requested for the job, and it's serious enough to justify a full week away. That's when Rhea completely loses it. She suddenly hugs Left and bursts into tears, realizing that 7 days without him might as well be an eternity. She cries that she can't bear it and starts smothering his head with her jigglies. But just as things begin to spiral, Mayu steps in and gently tells Rhea to stop deforming the boy's face. Rhea apologizes, clearly embarrassed, while Left quietly admits that all this affection, as nice as it is, might start interfering with everyone's work. Then, without warning, Left shocks everyone by leaning in and whispering something into Rhea's ear. When he's done, Rhea closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and says she understands. She then openly agrees that once they return from the trip, she and Left will go on a proper date. A week passes without the members of Fire Dragon's strike around, and in that silence, Left quickly realizes just how painfully bored he actually is. He lies around watching butterflies drift by, feeling oddly empty. All he wants is to complete guild requests and earn rewards, hunt monsters, and level up. But going outside town without Fire Dragon's strike guarding him would break the promise he made to his parents. At this point, Left hates the fact that he can't do anything on his own, and realizes just how dependent he's become on everyone else. For a brief moment, he almost gives in to the lazy comfort of the afternoon sun and gentle breeze, telling himself it's been a while since he's had a day this peaceful. But that thought terrifies him, so he snaps back to reality, panicking that this is exactly how someone becomes useless, and swears he'll become someone his parents can truly be proud of. That's when he starts flipping through his plant encyclopedia, thinking hard about what he can do on his own. He reviews the plants he recently registered, like Karamizuru, Explosion Grass, the Philo Tree, and several others. As he reads, he realizes most of them are beautiful but useless in direct combat, more like collector items than tools for survival. Left would love nothing more than to manifest the philo tree, but just imagining what the neighbors would say if a giant tree suddenly popped out of nowhere scares him. He worries it would draw too much attention to his gift, and that if his ability were exposed, he might even be taken away from his parents. As he thinks this through, Helio comes to mind, and Left wonders what kind of struggles he must have faced as another unique gift holder. Helio's old advice echoes in his head, reminding him to train properly before entering the academy, even if it takes years. His thoughts then drift to Latina, and he wonders if she's doing well, knowing how hard she must be working every day to prepare for academy enrollment. Meanwhile, in Latina's parents' mansion, she sits slumped at her desk, frustrated and exhausted, complaining that no one is actually teaching her anything useful. She vents that training once or twice a month isn't nearly enough, especially when her father is always busy and only values sword talent and raw combat strength. She feels bitterly jealous knowing that Left has a proper swordsmanship teacher, while she's forced to mostly self-study, despite already having academic knowledge equal to, or even better than, academy exam students. In the kingdom, there are plenty of people with real combat strength, but her father refuses to let any of them teach her because they're commoners, and he openly looks down on them. Latina thinks about her goal, which has always been to study at the academy and graduate as valedictorian so she can one day reunite with Left. But if she keeps neglecting practical skills, she knows there's no way she can accomplish that dream. Her mind then drifts back to the blessing ceremony. She remembers being blessed with Type 1 wind and fire magic, followed by Type 2 swordsmanship skills. Everyone was stunned, calling it impossible. Even her father had been deeply impressed. Back then, she had been so happy, believing Left would receive an equally incredible blessing. But her excitement had crashed the moment his gift was announced as a plant-based ability, and the crowd instantly branded him a useless disappointment. Back in the present, Latina clenches her fists. She's determined not to ever give up on reuniting with Left. Even though she isn't allowed to leave the mansion to search for a teacher herself, she's willing to do the unexpected and ask her father directly for help. So she marches straight to him and lays everything out. She tells him she wants to be the best, to bring honor to the family, and to graduate as valedictorian. She admits that she needs real combat training within the next 2 years and begs him to find proper teachers for both magic and swordsmanship. Will Left finally reunite with Latina? Comment Plant Boy if you're eager to find out in our part 2. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. As always, thanks for watching.